Okay, by that, let's look at that. This is, let me go back to this again. Okay.
Saturn's in the 12th house for Team Gemini.
Right here, right.
And the
And that,
outer wheel.
and that is opposing, Saturn's the third, look what it's doing, it's opposing this natal Saturn. Okay? Right here. Okay? And that's squaring all this. You see this? 13, right, falls right in there in a square. So the cross with transit Saturn is opposing Saturn in his chart. And again, like I said, it takes 28 years for that to move through this chart. What's the odds it would be just anywhere here? But it'd be exactly there, exactly opposing his natal Saturn, of the most evil of all planets. And then add to that the square to this Mars-Pluto square, the most malefic planets you can ever have in a chart. How is the odds that these lined up then? And I just want to prove this works. So I said, let's pick the date. That was something very tragic here. Okay, so let's move on.
What was the second rule?
Let's go back. Second rule is the progressed moon. 24 degrees Aquarius, forming a perfect T-cross that opposed the inner chart of Pluto, his chart, and in perfect square to his natal Mars. Exact square. And remember, that progressed moon takes 28 years to get there. 28 years. 28 years. How can you combine that mathematically with statistical odds that you can put that planet exactly there, put the new moon exactly there, and put that Saturn exactly there? I mean, there's no odds you could do it. You could never do it. To get all three, progressed moon, transit Saturn, and new moons, all lined up on those crosses perfectly, the odds are against you. You couldn't do it. You can't recreate it. You can't make it happen. It either is or it isn't. It's simple as that. Okay? Am I getting through? I know it's a little spacey here, but I'm trying. Okay. So, third, we're going to go to the next one. Okay. Look at, I said there's more interpretations from this. You could, natal Sagittarius, the 9th house, which rules aircraft and planes. Pisces influence, which would indicate airlines used by dastardly action. But I'm trying to keep it simple and clear for you to see the power of this method. The next chart we'll look at is Nicole Smith. How many remember her? Everybody remember her? Okay. Let's look at this. It's the moment of her death. Okay? All right. So let's look at these planets, the alignments, okay? Look at the the new moon, where it fell. 28 degrees of Capricorn. Where's her Mars? 27 Capricorn. 28 years for it to get there. Okay? No, not for this one, 28 days for it to align to that point. Okay, well, let's look at this progressed moon. It's at 5 degrees of Aries. Guess where her natal Saturn is? 5 degrees, exact. How can you put these two on Mars and this one on Saturn perfectly? What are the odds that this 28-year cycle took 28 years to go one time and then back around again to hit that spot? What's the odds you could put those two combinations together? Remember, it's like a combination lock. Okay? Now, the other thing is transit Saturn. Look where it's at. It's at 23 degrees Leo. What do you think that's doing? Look what it's squaring. Her Neptune and her Mercury in Scorpio, in the house, it's in Scorpio, sign of death. Neptune rules what, kiddo? Come on. Neptune.
Drugs.
Drugs. Good for you.
The law, whatever.
Huh? Neptune rules drugs. Mercury.
Drugs, alcohol.
Alcohol, drugs, exactly. She was drunk and drugged. And interestingly enough, the drugs she was taking were sleeping type of drugs. Remember, there's two types of drugs. Uranus rules one. Those are the hyper drugs, like speed, things like that. Then there's Neptunian, that's sleeping, anything to do with sleep, which are hypnotic drugs, things that make you sleepy and tired and dull your consciousness. So all these are lined up. What's the odds this could be here? Exact square. And notice this. There's so much here. Let's look at what I wrote about it. Okay? First rule, find the new moon preceding the event. It's conjunct Mars within 1 degree of exactness, squaring her moon and Venus. Exact squaring. The moon represents the function of the body. Did you know that? Okay. The heart and the life is the sun. That represents the spark of life in you, the sun. The moon is the functioning of the body. When both lights are afflicted, there's danger to the life in any chart. When you see both lights afflicted. Okay? So she has the moon preceding event, the new moon. It's conjunct Mars within 1 degree. Squares her moon and Venus. The progressed moon is exactly conjunct her natal Saturn. What's the odds of that? Progressed moon takes 28 years to get there. Exactly conjunct her Saturn? How can that be exact? Okay? Okay? It's exactly conjunct her natal Saturn, and it's quincunx natal Jupiter and trine her natal Sun. It's also setting off in opposition to Uranus and Pluto in the 10th house. Sudden and unexpected death, which is Uranus, sudden and unexpected, Pluto's death. In the 10th house, which gives public recognition and fame or infamy. Nothing was more in the public's attention over weeks and months than that death, where there's so many mysteries about it. Okay? Notice what planet was with Neptune in this chart. I want you to pay attention to that. Neptune, when she was born, is in Scorpio, in the house of self-undoing, the 12th house, in the sign of death, Scorpio, and it's joined with Mercury. That's what Mercury rules. Lawyers. Ah, yeah, you know. Remember the lawyer involved in all this?
That's right.
And the death of her son prior to that, which was never solved, supposedly an overdose. Okay. Okay. So what are we looking at? Coincidences? Huh? The moon, 28-year cycle to get here, is sitting on top of this malefic Saturn. Exactly. Okay? New moon sitting exactly on top of her Mars. Huh? What's the odds? Transit Saturn sitting at 23 Leo, sitting here, and it's squaring off exactly to this point, Neptune and Mercury. And making a quincunx to her, what was the quincunx? Okay, Saturn at 23 Leos, which puts it near exact square to Neptune, and also Mercury in her 12th house. It's a sign of Scorpio. Indicates to me betrayal, by the way. 12th house is betrayal. And deception, which is all 12th house matters. Mercury rules lawyers, and the intrigue surrounding his case. This case has never been solved, neither her son's death nor hers. Okay? Okay, so what's the odds you could do that? I mean, I just ask you, how many times could you do this? If we've done it just a couple, but I'll keep going. I'm going to do this over and over again until you just get it. Okay, and these are random. I didn't choose these for any reason. I just, because they remove major events and peoples of some note. And I had no way of knowing what's going to come out when I did these. But you notice Saturn, Mars, and Pluto are the major influences here of death. Okay, in my own chart, I never looked ahead of it, obviously, to see what would happen. Here's John F. Kennedy's chart.